Am I audible? Thank you. Clear. No, generally, my wife says that my voice is pretty hard. So, and knowing ladies, they are never wrong. So, thank you, Chairman Ketan Sayya sir. Thank you, Vice Chair Piyush Chandak ji, and the coordinator for today. It's always a beautiful moment to come back to your alma mater. I mean, as a speaker now, I mean, where you have learned whatever you are today is because of our alma mater, and it's so nice, refreshing, and blessing in the sense that you are over here back. Before we start the topic today, I mean, what I would like to do is, I generally don't be one of the spectators or a person who would just keep on talking. So I make audience also talk or audience also walk. How many of you are, any of you are trustees, directors in a Section 8 company? Anybody? Can you raise your hands? Anybody? One. And I would request please yes or a no. It's somebody, I've many times seen people do like this. So it's, I don't know whether it's a yes or a no. Only one has said yes. Nobody else? How many of you practice in the field of trust? Okay. Sir, again, quite a few. So there are about 15-20 hands I saw, so I'm presuming the rest don't. I hope I'm now audible. Fair enough. Thank you. So, of the 20 people who said that they practice in this area, I'm presuming that some more are doing it but have not raised their hands. But and I can see small smiles which obviously make me realize that the number is much more than what was raised. How many of you have finished some of the 10B or BB audit reports, or anybody? Or are waiting for the extension to come in? I mean, honestly speaking, the ICI has been doing a lot. I mean, I was day before yesterday in the Noida branch taking a seminar. But while ICI has been trying a lot and to do whatever it is, but honestly, do we want to wait till the last day? I mean, I don't see extension. I mean, something which I will say may not be music to your ears, but I would like to say the truth, and that's what we've been taught to do so. I mean, given this current environment where we are, doesn't look so. I mean, so my suggestion to each one of you would be, don't wait till the last day. And fortunately, unfortunately, the issue is that if you look at 10B, which is above 5 crores, or if you have an FCRA donations of even 1 rupee, then the form itself runs into around 35 or 38 pages, right? Do we have that much of time left to do the qualitative job? The probably answer would be no. And if no, it's an audit report. And any mistakes thereon, I mean, we are liable, right, as auditors. And it just takes a small somebody to put in a complaint, and then we are easily made the scapegoat. I mean, the disciplinary committee processes start and all those things happen. So the easiest scapegoat is a CA, correct? But I think so we need to look beyond that, and I will suggest that you strongly look at a period how you could complete it. Apart from that, one of the reasons of this seminar, actually this seminar we had planned for 7th. Originally the message had gone for 7th, and subsequent to that, because of some holidays and Ganpati, we had to reschedule it. Ketan Bhai had asked me, the chairman sir had asked me, if you have any problems in doing it on 20th. I said, I don't have a problem. The only problem is that 10 days would be left, and I don't know how people will face challenges in completing the renewal in 10 days. So that was the reason why it got rescheduled. But so before we start on this entire seminar and see what challenges we are facing, I would like to understand from you some questions, ask some questions to you, and get your feedback on what is the challenges being faced currently, and maybe some of them could get addressed. So if you don't mind, few of you would like to raise your hands and maybe say what challenges you're facing currently. Anybody? Let's keep it as a dialogue rather than a monologue, because that's where everybody will actually get more, is what I feel. So please go ahead.
The Form 10AB, where we have to apply, the clause number 6, it requires us to state whether the trust is irrevocable or not. Last time in 21, when we had done no, it accepted, we got the registration. But this year, by stating no, it is not getting accepted. So how do we modify? There are 100 years old trust, 50 years old trust.
I will not give you answer at this point of time, because somewhere it is getting covered over there. I want to understand the challenges, some of which would already being addressed in the while we do the deliberations. So I have noted that. Sorry for not giving an answer, because you will get your answer over there. Please, sir. Fair enough. Noted. Any more? Please go ahead, sir. Good afternoon.
Couple of issues that I'm facing regarding renewal applications. One is memorandums sometimes have generic clauses regarding branches abroad, mostly for sourcing funds, not for application of funds, but
Understood.
officers are being extremely strict.
I understood. Noted, sir.
The second thing is one of the existing companies that had an original 12 license. Unfortunately, made the application in 22 under 12(1) AC3 instead of AC1. Sorry, AC6 instead of AC1. So the application itself was incorrect. Therefore, it came under a provisional registration. Being an existing charity, we were due to renew within 6 months of activities, but that didn't happen because we thought.
So your application would have got rejected.
It did not. Now it's now for renewal because 3 years are over, and then they're saying you shouldn't have applied on this in the first place. So there's no real recourse. I don't know what to do in that direction. Negotiating with an officer is a different story, but there's no.
Is it based in Mumbai?
Based in Mumbai.
Understood.
Particular law I can really look at and find the solution.
Understood. Perfect. Fair enough. Please go ahead, sir. For your second point, I may not, I'll try and give you some practical issue. Theoretically, there is very limited chance, but let me see still.
Yeah, this is for a trust in Mumbai. At the time of the provisional registration, there was a precondition that in the trust deed, the word abroad, ostensibly for activities not to be carried out abroad, that needed to be dropped, just that one word. So an application was made, and on the basis of that application, the registration provisionally was granted. Unfortunately, unfortunately, it is still not completed. You know, the Office of the Charity Commissioner is still struggling. So the hearings are going on.
Yes.
Trying to figure out how we position itself in two ways. One, will I make a declaration as an issue and I'm putting it forward when I make the application now, so 30th? And secondly, how will it manifest onwards? Whether I'll be called to explain. And second question, sir, is once we make the application, it is 6 months before time. How will it unravel going forward, the process? That's all.
Fair enough. Hi, Virag. Any more questions? Please go ahead.
One of my clients, so that is society registration in Rajasthan. It got provisional registration because of it was a new society. And the last year, while applying for the permanent approval, ATG was rejected based on that certain expenses were incurred for religious purposes.
Perfect.
So on that basis, the ATG is rejected. 12 days is correctly.
Perfect.
So now the state, we again want that ATG to be.
So I'm presuming your expenses towards religious were more than 5%. Fair enough. I got you my answer. Okay. Please go ahead. I'm just trying to take questions, not give answers. I will try and give, some of the answers are covered in this presentation, some are not, but even if I don't give, if they are not covered, I will take up your questions at the end. So please don't feel bad that I'm not covered it. But I have noted each and every questions and I have an answer for it. So I'll take it to the best of my ability. Please go ahead, sir. Can we have a mic for the participants? I will stop you over here and I'll give you a logical reason for it. Don't take me wrong. If you see today, still under 135, the Companies Act, CSR registration is mandatory, right? For 12AB, ATG, 12AB registered trust or a society or a Section 8 company, correct? And if you see the CSR rules, they require you to have a 12AB and ATG both. So I completely agree with you today that as on date, honestly, you don't require an ATG because obviously the ATG is of no relevance. The issue is that if you see today, technically, most individuals, around 70-80% would have migrated to the new regime. And the balance who are left are anyway going to get pushed to the old new regime because department wants the way this year's returns were also structured for the ones that were taking the old regime. It's a clear intent that they want you to push to the new regime, number one. Sir, see, honestly, that needs a complete overhaul of the way the Income Tax Act. If you technically see, there are only 5 sections applicable to a charitable trust. 10, 23, 11, 12, 13 and ATG. If we forget rest of the sections, this is the only 5 sections which are actually directly applicable to a charitable trust or a Section 8 company or a society. And I think what you're trying to say would need a lot of change in the entire 5 sections. Today, currently, even they found a lot of challenge in changing it to the new bill, new law. Now the bill has been passed, so it's a new law altogether. And there were a lot of representations which had to be made even in this 5 sections, because I don't know whether you are aware or not, there was Form 9A provision, 11(1)A subclause 1 and 2. In the new bill, they had not put that, they had removed it. And the classic, you cannot understand the arguments being put forward when we come across the situations. I had personally represented before Vipul Agarwal CIT Delhi, who was the person who was drafted this NPO bill. And I told him, sir, that why have you removed 9A? I mean, 9A needs to be there. Saying, y'all only have been complaining. When do we fill 9A? When do we fill Tom 10? We are not getting confused. 9A के बदले 10 भर देते हैं. 10 के आपको you can accumulate in Form 10. But I said, sir, both have different connotations. The Act wants there is a specific provision. You cannot just simply say that color me because I am filling up. Somebody is doing a mistake. That means everybody is doing a mistake. Are you saying that that person who did a mistake, everybody is doing a mistake? But that was the logic that he was giving me. That you have an option of accumulation, so might as well you file Form 10. I said, I have not received income. I have accrued an income because the Companies Act want me to do it. I am following mercantile basis, and that's why Form 9 will allow me to defer it will give me an application in the year in which I accrue it, and I will spend the money in the year in which I receive it. It can be any period, beyond 5 years also, if the income is such. That is the answer that is being given by bureaucracy. There is absolutely no correlation in the Act. But that was what was luckily in the new final bill that has come back. But that's my answer to you, that will take a whole sea change in what we are talking. So maybe at this point of time we are grappling with, we have a lot to as it is on our plate. Let's keep that apart because that would not be the topic of our discussion today. Please. Yeah, sure. Sure, thank you. Sorry.
At the time of renewal, the trustee said we don't need any donation, APG cancel.
Right.
So when we went for cancellation, by mistake, registration was cancelled.
By whom? By you or by the department? Huh.
Because surrender,
Huh.
surrender registration instead of APG.
Okay.
Because the numbers on the certificate are same. While
Okay.
watching online,
Code, you have to select a particular code. So you have selected the wrong code. Right.
so when I contacted the officers, they say now your registration, you have surrendered, it will be cancelled right from beginning.
Again, is it based in Mumbai?
Yes, it is based in India.
Okay.
So while applying again, I had put the reason why I am applying. Since by mistake it was cancelled instead of ATG, so it should be given from retrospective effect. But they have only given from the current year. So now for the previous there will be any dilemma?
Yes. 115
any other way to resolve this issue?
No, honestly no. 115 TD provisions will trigger in. Exit tax will trigger in for the period that was your cancelled.
But it will be from the date of this application or it will be from the previous period?
When is it is cancelled will depend upon that. We'll take it up. Let's start and maybe we'll reach questions.
Mistake, so 115 TD will be very harsh.
But once your rejection is done, then what? What is the other alternative? Yeah. Should we park few questions now, or do you want me to take few more questions and before we say it's ultimate? Okay, sir, last question and then we start.
ATG registration, if it is not done, there is a provision that 85% should be spent on the object of the trust. So in that case, suppose ATG registration not done, so balance 15%, whether it will be taxable, query number 1, and we were told by Charity Commissioner that if ATG registration is to be done every 5 years, you have to make the changes in the bylaw also. So whether bylaw need to be changed for ATG, we were told verbally by the Charity Commissioner.
Okay, but where is that? I understand the 85% is under the Income Tax Act, correct? 11(1). How has Charity Commissioner to do with 11(1)?
No. Since that trust has not done ATG registration every 5 years, So
Okay.
whether the balance 15% is taxable. Suppose a trust
So,
spends
so,
say
so,
86%.
let's hold on. Let's hold on. And let me clarify over here. Don't take me wrong. First of all, 11.1, which says that once you, for our discussion for a few minutes, let's assume you got 100 rupees because 100 becomes the easy number to discuss. What does 11.1 say? 11.1 says that if you receive 100, 85 must be applied towards the object of the trust, and then the balance 15 is deemed to have been spent, right? You don't pay any tax on that 15, correct? This is what 11.1 says. So simple. Does it anywhere say whether you have ATG, not ATG? No. ATG is only a benefit that you are giving to your donor, correct? So 11.1 has no correlation with whether you have a ATG, don't have an ATG, nothing of that sort, number one, right? Secondly, where has Charity Commissioner any powers to say whether you have an ATG, not ATG, because that has nothing to do with the BPT Act itself or the Maharashtra Public Trust Act 1950, correct? So they are not there to determine the taxability under the Income Tax Act. The Income Tax Office is the only person who can determine the tax payable under the Income Tax Act. Under 58A of the BPT Act, they have contributions has to be collected at the rate of 2%, which they are fair enough based on your schedule 9C, 9D, which is fair enough. So my answer to your question is that they have no right over there. Since you have raised this issue, I will clarify for the benefit of the larger members, though not connected with this topic. There was a stay, if you see 9C and we used to do the computation under the BPT Act for all the trusts and societies, we used to do a computation of that taxable amount on which 2% cess was payable. There was a stay from 2007. The matter was under the Bombay High Court. I forgot the case name. No, not Salvation Army. Some Ramesh Shah or some. I'm so sorry, I forgot. At this moment, I forgot the name of that. There was a stay by the Bombay High Court from 2007 on the collection of the 2% cess. And the issue raised at that point of time was that while we were computing, that was payable as cess under Section 58 of the BPT Act. But Charity Commissioner was not collecting it because they already had some money, 158 crores deposited with the Charity Commissioner prior to 2007. And this case had gone to Bombay High Court, where they had said, Bombay High Court had told the BPT commissioners that please show us how do you intend to utilize this money, and then we will give you permission to levy further money. Last month, that stay has been removed. The stay has gone. In between, the government, state government had approached Bombay High Court saying that we want to levy 5% because in the intervening period from 2007 till date, state government had amended the BPT Act or the Maharashtra Public Trust Act to increase the rate from 2 to 5%, maximum of 5%. So the state government had gone in between to say that, sir, we want to raise that amount to 5%. Because we need money, we have spent this much of money, and in the annexures that have been given to the court, they have said, they have given reasons as to the amount that they have spent, and therefore they said that we want to raise it to 5% because to recover the money. Bombay High Court has said that the state government will come out with a policy. The stay is vacated as on today. The government will come out with their amount to be specified as on today 2%. And the mechanism of the collection, because now it will, since the stay has been removed from 2007, what happens to all the amounts of recovery which is to be done by all the trusts and societies from 2007 will become an issue. Some of them have been closed down, some of them have been deregistered, all those challenges will come. But that is where what I wanted to point out, since he mentioned this, so all those who are having trust and societies who are registered with the Maharashtra Public Trust Act with the Charity Commissioner will face this issue in the coming months, because 2% cess which was not being collected will now be collected. Whether retrospectively, we don't know. Prospectively, yes, for sure. So be ready to, since he's...
They have reserved in every receipt, they have reserved the amount of 2% for last so many years. You know, so they might.
That's what I'm saying. So they may take retrospectively, but the issue is obviously somebody, and in the Bombay High Court judgment which they gave last month, they have also added one line that that the appellants can come back to this court if they find that the rates or anywhere are high, then they can come back. So they've always kept a scope for more litigation, but I'm presuming that the state government will look into it before they come out with whatever guidelines they have to come out with.
5% when will it be implemented?
Sir, it's ultimately left to the bureaucracy. So let's hope sanity prevails.
They have reserved the right for 3%.
I think it will be when they want to increase, it will be prospective, not retrospective.
Sir, I'm saying sanity should prevail, but let's not get into that debate. Let somebody whose job it is to do, let them decide while we discuss on better things that we have to discuss. So, see, technically, that 2% cess, it was a cess for administrative purposes. The cess, when Section 58 was brought into the BPT Act, it was brought in for the administrative purposes. Now, a far-fetched view in the income tax could be that it is for another act. And my view would be that they may not allow it as an application. It would be from the reserves only. Let's move on. So, why this topic and why 30th September becomes very, very important? I mean, I know one for a fact, we have any challenges for 30th of September. I'm not here to make you lose your sleep, but I'll try and help you to the best of the ability that I can. If all of you go back and there was an amendment in 21, right, where through the Taxation and Ordinance Amendment Act 2021, what they had done was they had introduced 12AB, right? And so the genesis over there was that there was a CAG report of 2020 which was tabled in Parliament on 16th August 22. It is available in public domain. And there they had given huge scathing remarks on how the CAG had done a review of performance audit of charitable entities in 2020. They had analyzed about 7,000 odd trusts. And that is where a huge scathing remarks were made, and a lot of these things were mentioned in that 230-page odd report. One of the issues which was also raised over at that point of time was that if you see, earlier we had 12A, then we had 12AA. In the 12A, we had to renew every 5 years. Then the section was amended, 12AA was brought in, wherein once if you register, it was you are there to perpetuity unless your certificate was revoked. That was the provision made available. If you remember, majority of you, if you remember, there were the old physical note registers where the certificates were granted and they were noted, and subsequently around 6-7 is when we started having the physical and the online filings and all those things. In the CAG report also they've mentioned that the department does not have a complete list of all the trusts who have been granted registration. And since 12AA came in, the number of trust society section 8 that was given this registration and whose certificate is valid till perpetuity was not available with them. So the number of trusts who have been granted registration was not available. So that is where it was suggested that you give us some PAN-based alphanumeric number. And if you see your registration certificate in Form 10AD, the final registration certificate, you see a unique code number which is the PAN-based alphanumeric number. What was proposed in 12AB was that via taxation ordinance was that everybody who had a 12A or 12AA have to go for renewal, and once you apply in subclause 12(1) AC subclause 1, you will be granted for 5 years. Correct? Very, very simple. And CIT CPC was the designated authority at that point of time. So anybody who applied at that point of time got the certificate. Somebody who applied between 1st April 21 and 27th of May 21, all the certificates in the old portal were granted on 28th of May 21 in the old portal, and subsequently that portal was closed down. Somewhere around July, we all remember that year we had a huge problem, 21, where July, August, the new portal started over, and then we started filing again. Subsequently, in the new portal, there were many extensions that came in, and 31st March 22 was the due date, which was further extended to 25th of September, 25th of November 23, and the last of extensions came wide circular number 7, which is up to 30th of, dated 5th April 24 to 30th June 24 for this renewal, right? So all of you who took registration under 12AB 1, subclause AC, subclause 1, or ATG 5.1, right? Your registration certificate mentioned AY 22-23 to AY 26-27. Perfect. Since it is for AY 26-27, therefore it is valid till March 26. And there was only one condition mentioned over there, that you have to go for renewal 6 months prior to the period in which it is getting over. So your certificate is getting over on March 26. So 6 months prior to that becomes 30th of September. That is the reason why this date of 30th of September. Well, fair enough. So this was the background why renewal is very, very important, correct? And some of the questions that you all have asked will get covered over a period of time. The rest we will anyway take forward. This already has been covered by Piyush by some of them. So really been blessed by this alma mater of ours to have been blessed to be working with few big industrial houses, foundations in various capacities, each of one who manages about 100 crores of donations every year, and been really blessed to write 3 books in this field, and Taxman being one of the leading authors, leading tax publishers to publish this book. So, thank you. As I said, this was while the amendments of the 12AB in ATG, and why this is not perpetual, it is valid for 5 years. So, the renewal due date is 30th of September, and why is it becoming very, very important, correct? If you do not register or renew before 30th of September, what will happen, all right? And let's look at that aspect. As I mentioned, till you had a chance till 30th of June 24 to renew if you had prior ones. Now, the challenge is that if you do not renew, wide the last budget, there was powers granted to this CIT exemption. If there is any delay in your registration or renewal, then he can condone it technically, right? But provided you have a genuine reason for that condonation. And that condonation powers, if you see technically, are under 12AB only. He does not have powers under ATG, because similar provisions are not there in ATG. There have been specific power, I will repeat, there have been specific powers given under 12AC subclause 1 till subclause 5. I can take up 1 to 5, whatever it covers in a minute. But he's been granted powers for 12AC 1 to 5, but not granted powers for ATG. And I will give you the logic why also it is not there, right? First, let me take up all the sections. Subclause 1, 12AC, subclause 1, AC subclause 1 was for to be used when you are in 2021, correct? Any confusion? No. Now when you are going for renewal, you will use subclause 2 because it is for since 5 years are over and therefore renewal is due, you will use subclause 2. Similarly, for ATG, you will use subclause 2. You used ATG 1 in the earlier times, now you will use ATG 2. Any confusion over here? The period that you will select in the form is AY 2728. When you run the form, when you open the form online, the form 10AB which you file, you will get 2627 as well as 2728. In cases where you are going for renewal, you will select AY 2728 because your earlier certificate is valid till AY 2627. And therefore, 2728 is what you have to select. Why I am stressing upon selection of the particular year is very, very important because if you see how most CITs are working, I mean CIT exemptions, Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, some of them have been saying that we are not able to change the section code once you apply or not even able to change the assessment. In fact, I am being told that they can't see the assessment year. Whatever you select, they can't even see the assessment year. When the application comes to their portal for approval and all those further assessments, they can't see the assessment year. So therefore, they have got no choice to even change that assessment year. The only thing what they can change is the period to which they can give. So that is where most of them get rejected on statistical ground, because if somebody told me had applied under subclause 2 or some challenges like that in the questions. So when you go for conversion from provisional to final or similar, when you had to select subclause 1 but he selected subclause 6, and that is where they are going to get rejected. Because they don't have the power to change the subclause. I know ITAT, there is a recent judgment also of the court where they have said that you can change the subclause. This is not right, but that's what because we live in a country where unfortunately in the good old days we were taught the act is supreme, the law follows there and the systems would follow then. But nowadays it's like this. The act is over here, the rule is over here, and the systems are over here, and they don't talk to each other like a triangle. But that's the way it is. So subclause 2 is over there, correct? You will have to select subclause 2, select the assessment year as 2728. Subclause 3 basically refers to cases where you're going for a conversion from provisional to final registration. 12 AC, subclause 1, 1 AC, subclause 3 refers to the one where you're going for conversion from provisional to final, right? 4 refers to for merger, demerger, and 5 is for any change in the modification of the objects. And somebody had said that he wanted, there was some irrevocability which I will touch upon, but somebody had raised the issue relating to some change reports, some amendments done to the trust deed, and it is lying with the charity commissioner. Am I correct? Somebody had raised this issue. Yes. So, sir, since we are on subclause 5, I will answer this over there. Technically, when you go for renewal and you gave them you would have filed a scheme under 50A of the Bombay Public Trust Act. Over there, I'll tell you, there are 7 states in India where there is Public Trust Act, which is there, including Maharashtra. Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Orissa, and Rajasthan. Rest do not have Public Trust Act. They have the Indian Trust Act, which follows. Technically, under the Indian Trust Act, once a trust deed is executed, it is only a city civil court or a higher court which can amend these trust deed. Fortunately, in this Maharashtra, we have section 50A under the BPT Act, where you can file a scheme with the charity commissioner, and once that scheme is approved, it becomes a trust deed. Similar is the provision in balance 7 states. As you rightly said, once you file with the BPT, it takes its own sweet time. And unfortunately, you can't do anything but keep visiting them. When you had whatever you would have submitted the scheme 50A and they would have got an acknowledgement, that you would have given, and on that basis your renewal would have been done. Am I correct? or conversion from provisional to final, as the case may be. Now, since you are going for renewal, you will have, your stand will remain the same. You will have to give that scheme only, because as on till the date that your application is discharged and approved, you can't do anything, right? The day it gets approved, right, it will become a modification, and therefore you will have to apply within 1 month under subclause 5. Because under subclause 5, when you're doing a modification of the objects, you have just 1 month. Rest, everywhere you have 6 months. For conversion of provisional act to final, you have 6 months. When you're doing conversion from activities, you have 6 months. But under subclause 1, you have only 1 month.
So with that document, when I have to submit the trust deed now, the earlier trust deed or the modified one, which one will I submit?
You can submit the original one with the copy of the application that you made to the charity commissioner, because in your application in the charity commissioner, you attach a document with where you say the old scheme, old provisions versus the new provisions. You give a reconciliation of that on a single sheet. I'll say you can attach that also, and the acknowledgement copy or which you have in the BPT received that you have submitted this scan section 58, you can attach that also, so that will take care of it.
So what you're saying is, till the BPT approves it, and the charity commissioner, it doesn't become the final trust deed.
No, sir. Because you have filed something, have they accepted it? It's just taken on record, not accepted.
Drawing an analogy with the Companies Act, once the resolution gets into
Sir, since you've raised this issue, let me tackle it. Once you file with the company, if you have a similar, so somebody had raised, that gentleman had raised the issue of having a broad word or payments, even you had raised and even he had raised payments to abroad or something of that sort. And when in a case of a Section 8 company, if you see, you file GNL1 form and then it gets approved through the ROC, right? In that case, again, once that is approved, you will have to go back, because again, it's a question of Section 5, under subclause 5. So, but it takes a much lesser time and much less follow-up in case of a Section 8 company, and that's where probably people are now preferring Section 8 company to a trust or a society. I know there are certain regulations. If you want to do a society, then if you want to do a school, again with state government affiliation, you compulsorily have to have a society. You want to do a hospital, you want to have a trust. So where there is no specific regulation as such, you still prefer a Section 8 company to a trust and society today because of this compliance burden. But the answer to your and his question will be that you will have to go, till the time your GNL1 or the 58 application is not accepted, it is just taken on record. Yes, sir. I have a similar case and I will give you my view on it. I have a case in Chennai where one trust is getting acquired from one set of promoters to another set of promoters. Correct? For whatever reasons, let's not get into it. So obviously you have, it's just in the process, and therefore the same dichotomy is there with me also, which is with you. My practical suggestion would be to file under both. The reason being, see, 5 is very clear enough to say that 1 month, right? Now subclause 2 gives you 6 months. Now the challenge is if you don't file under 5, correct? By the time your application comes under subclause 2, somewhere on the 3rd or the 4th month, right? Because if you see Mumbai, Pune is giving you a notice in the 2nd month. Delhi is giving you in the 2nd month. Mumbai is taking 3 months minimum. The 3rd month by the time you get a notice, right? You would have already lost that time. And then they will say, you have not gone for subclause 5, I am rejecting you on that ground. He gives you a show cause. And then you're left high and dry. If you file in 5, and he gives you an early hearing, you may at that point of time say that I've also filed in subclause 2, whether you want to take it up together, and the answer could be yes, because at the end of the day, because once he gives you that, when he is giving you the application for the next period, when he's selecting the period, he will get an option, and maybe he would like to dispose of the subclause 2 also at that point of time. If he does not consider 5 and he takes you at 2, right, you still have an option that I have filed 5, so my job is done. I had to do whatever I had to comply, I have complied. So that would be my practical answer to it. Okay. So the way I see it is, your ATG, first of all, I will like to make a small request. Since we are sitting over here, we are all chartered accountants, right? Let's avoid, see, I know 50% of my clientele today is chartered accountants. And I know a lot of them face challenges. But for our discussion, let's not mention that some mistake was done by chartered accountant, because ultimately we all are professional brothers, correct? And if we can't value our own professional brothers, or if we can't give respect to our professional brothers, nobody sitting outside will give respect to our professional brothers. So for our discussion, sorry, but I wanted to make that point very, very clear over here. Across we all are professional brothers, and let's not mention each other that we made a mistake. Even though we would have done some, I mean, not everybody knows everything, and let's be honest about it. But at least in this closed room, let's respect each other, and that is very, very critical. Given that background, see, you mentioned ATG was rejected. You went to ITAT, and if you see today's half of the matters which are there in ITAT, half matters of charitable trust. And ITAT is doing a simple thing. It's just going, majority of the 95% of the time it is setting aside cases. It is saying, sending it back to the CIT exemption with a note saying that for de novo registration to be looked into with fresh application, as in fresh application. Nothing more. No more further strictures are being given. And ITAT is taking about 1.5 months for that certified copy of the order to be given to CIT exemption. If it's in Mumbai, if it's in Pune, it's about a month or so. In some other parts of the country, especially in Kerala, it's coming within 15 days also. Mumbai is taking a lot of time. My answer to you would be, if your order is passed and a substantial period has passed through, you go back to the CIT exemption Mumbai, Salil Mishra ji, and request whether it can be taken on record. Because unless they have got the certified copy, they will not issue your notice, because for fresh hearings. You've made an application. But have you got the notice? You just giving a notice application doesn't make sense, because he would have told you that it is based on your copy. Unless and until I don't receive my copy from the department, I will not do anything. Correct? So if you receive the copy, notice before 30th of September, you may obviously go under subclause 2, because then your registration is valid. Correct? Even if you don't get your notice copy, my sense is still you may file under subclause 2 for renewal. Given that background, that ITAT has sent it back. Now, only facts to be looked into is, there are two types. So there have been registrations primarily because of two reasons. One is ex parte assessments where you would have not appeared, or if you have appeared, you are given 2 or 3 hearing Pune is giving 2 hearing notices, Bombay is giving 3, Delhi is giving 3. So if you've not applied, not appeared before 1 or in 2 or 3, I mean either of them one, then you get rejected, and that is what is happening. In majority of them, if that is the issue, then you can still file under subclause 2. Now, where in the second case, where the rejection was on a specific ground, either application not being then, I mean, application of application of expenses not being granted or not confirming to the objects, then you have to look at the order of the ITT whether those have been accepted or not, number one. And lastly, the third type can be the ones which was mentioned by the gentleman, where you have words like abroad and there you went to ITT, ITC, it said that since that defects have been cured, you may come back, have a fresh look. In those cases, I see if you have the defects have been cured, you may still go for subclause 2, there is no challenge on it. So generally, the ITT today is having broadly these 3 categories of cases that are coming up. Rest, I don't think is, I mean, there are any. Sorry? Right. So the defects are cured. Right. So coming back, that is the reason why you need to have continuation of the exemption. Obviously, the exemption will lapse if you do not renew it. And what happens if if you don't renew it? 115 TD. Yes, no, not applicable. No. How many say no? Sir, I said हाथ पूरे खड़े होने चाहिए, ऐसा है वैसा नहीं. 3 of you only saying no. Acha, so rest is saying yes? 1 is saying yes. Okay. Rest, I'm presuming, is not applicable? Sir, why no? Since you are saying no, I mean, we'll ask somebody who's yes. I'll give my view thereafter. Let us hear the views. No. Let's not get. Condonation is a separate issue. We are not talking of condonation. Condonation is whether it's yes or a no, condonation is irrelevant. Yes, sir. Oh, I am. No, you said no, right? If I'm correct. So why no? Okay. On 31st of March. It will expire on 31st of March. Right. So the point is, if the registration, see, the earlier registration was valid till 31st of March 26, AY 26-27, correct? If you do not, and with the condition that you will go for renewal 6 months prior to the end, because the department has been granted 6 months power to accept or reject your application. That was a basic premise. Now, given with that background, your registration on 31st of March 26 is expired. So, first morning, it is of, that is plain piece of paper, nothing more. Now, obviously, your trust, society or a Section 8 company on 1st of April will continue to exist with whatever asset liability that it has, which it carried forward from 31st of March 26. Now, my question over there is whether 115 TD will apply or not. And you said no. That's why I want to understand the reasons why it will become a no. And I'll ask the answer to why somebody who said yes also is the reason. Just to
that accumulation can be either in the form of a cash, in the form of some kind of an asset.
hello.
So to the extent the cash which I have accumulated, I have applied 80% 85% of it for a charitable purpose, and that's why I got tax-free 15% to be accumulated in my hands. Now, going forward, if I'm not going to continue the charitable activity, then okay, whatever money I'm going to receive it, I'm going to rightfully pay tax on the same, correct?
As an AOP.
Yeah, and for the things which I have done past, I have legally and legitimately accumulated this 15% over a period of time. So this should not be subject to tax. In case if there is any fixed assets or any immobile property which I am holding it, say I am selling that property when my registration is not effective, then at that particular point in time I may be subject to capital gains tax on it. So my sense is that the accumulation, which is a balance sheet item, should not become subject to accreted tax just because I am not.
Understood. Okay. I hear one side of the your side of the story. Sir, you said yes, so let's hear him out. There's not a right or a wrong, we are just trying to debate.
Yeah, according to my view, when the funds has been created, maybe 15% each, but then it has to be utilized for the purpose of the trust, and the trust got deregistered from 1st of April. So then the entire fund has to be either donated to the similar object trust, otherwise it will be taxable.
No, but just
So let me give my view on it, and I have no love lost for either of you, and we don't want to have a debate over here. We are on either to be right or wrong. The only point that I see what he's trying to say is to some extent right, and my view over there is in consonance with him, is that the 15% that was granted to you was qua the objects, with the basic premise that you will spend towards the object of the trust. Now, given that you were deregistered technically on 1st April 26, assuming you don't file your application, and let's not get into condonation, assuming no condonation is done. On 1st of April, you have a deregistration. Whether department did it or whether you opted out has no relevance, correct? But on 1st April, you are deregistered. And therefore, department within its right apply 115 TD on the fair market value of the assets minus the fair market value of the liabilities, the net amount over there. They will go by the same principle that you have accumulated 15% qua the objects, as because we gave you an exemption. See, that's where 11.1 becomes very critical. It is a deeming fiction, correct? And I, sorry to say, but some professional fellow brothers keep calling me. Every year I get calls during September month saying that, sir, oh 15% तो standard deduction है ना, तो 100 रुपए में से पहले 15 निकाल देते हैं. I get every time I tell them it is not a standard deduction. Section 16 is not applicable. It is section 11.1 which is saying if you spend 85, then balance 15 is there. If you spend 84, then balance 16 is taxable, correct? If you spend 87, then 13, only 13 will be not taxable, correct? So the analogy over there will be that 15 which was exempted today will become, because you did not pay tax on it, will at some point of time become the accredited tax on deregistration. And that is my view. I agree with him to a limited point that yes, that this is the challenge that could be faced on 1st of April 26, assuming that you don't renew along with condonation. But let's live that battle at this point of time, and we have a bigger battle before 30th of September. So, and as you rightly said, obviously the subsequent income that you receive, you will be treated as an AOP. Under 164.2, you will become an AOP taxable at the maximum marginal rate, where department is taking a clear view that only admin expenses are to be given, no other application of expenses is allowed, and therefore everything is taxable at the maximum marginal rate. As I said, under 80G will also expire, and if you there, I will like to bring an important factor. I said even in condonation, 12A subclause 1 to subclause 5, you can get the condonation done, right? And I had said at that point of time, the 80G cannot be condoned because the provisions are not there, correct? I will get you another view on this or another live example of this. Till before 1st of September, right? After 30th of July, as I said, 30th of July by circular was the last date when you can renew under the subclause 1, the old one, correct? And last budget, they had given powers to the CIT to renew under subclause 1 if somebody had forgotten even in July 24, correct? But there was no utility granted because your Form 10AB did not have the provision for subclause 1, if you remember. How many have tried? Anybody has cases regarding that? Right. I have, for one, have a referred matter where the school was, there was a fire which happened in 21 and they could not renew it because they were in the process of reconstruction till 24. But the provision was there. The CITs were not accepting manual applications, they were only accepting the online. And in the online subclause 1, there was no utility, right? There was matter was represented before various CITs, including the PCCIT Delhi, who had come in August month. Devjyoti Das and a few chartered accountants, including me, were called to speak to him. We had said that, sir, you don't give us utility 1. How will we apply and how will the renewal take place? Now on 1st of September, that utility has come. You can, if you select, I will show you a screenshot of it. You can select the when you go to Form 10A, you can select condonation and select subclause 12 AC subclause 1. So it will take you from 21, 22. But in that subclause, when you select 12AB subclause 1, you don't have any subclause for ATG. What does it mean? The department is very clear that in cases of delay of ATG, they will not condone your cases of ATG. Because the utility itself is not allowing you to fill the form. If you don't fill up the form, how can the department get the application, right? So it is a very clear understanding that ATG cannot be condoned. And if you don't do a timely, obviously you lose the ATG. As I said, one of the requirements for CSR is ATG, so there could be a challenge. I understand that gentleman had a very valid question that given that in new regime, obviously ATG will have be no relevance, but I think that gentleman has no more, right? He's left. But that was a very valid question, and the only reason, unless there is an amendment under 135 of the Companies Act for CSR, ATG will still have to be kept. The amendment was to Rule 17AA, that anyway we have taken a note. So let's start with the 12A form, and what obviously you have to file online Form 10AB, selecting subclause 2, which I've already told you, correct?
Sir, I request if you can cover from PPT to Section 8 company conversion, if at all it can be covered.
Okay. I'll take it up at the end because ultimately there are many issues over there, but okay. Technically, if you remember, I had told you there are only 5 sections: 10, 23, 11, 12, 13, correct? Now in 1023, earlier 1023 is applicable to educational and medical institutions only, right? And 1023 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D refers to educational and medical institutions where either the government holds 50% or government grants are more than 50%, or private institutions but receiving donations or gross receipts less than 5 crores. And 1023, you see 4, 5, 6 and 6A refers to similar organizations but whose receipts are more than 5 crores. And after last budget, the 4, 5, 6 and 6A have to compulsorily, they have to move out of this 1023C and go to 12A. So now they have to compulsorily take registration under 12A, correct? Another reason was in the earlier 1023C, if you see, There was no mandatory requirement of audit. It was just the return filing which was mandatory at that point of time. Now they will have to compulsorily apply for renewal also. I mean, once they come under 12, their renewal registration application has to happen, and every year they will have to go for renewal. Every year in the sense every period, depending on where they are. Majority of them will be more than 5 crores, so obviously they will have 12 AB every 5 years and ATG also 5 years. In the last budget, they coined or they carved out a category called smaller trust. And I was somehow bemused by that limit of 5 crores. So I once asked a CIT that, sir, how have you determined that 5 crores limit as a small trust? He said, his answer was very simple. He's saying, sir, जिसने 10 BB भरा उसका मतलब वो small trust, जिसने 10 B भरा वो बड़ा trust. बट मैंने बोला सर किसी ने गलती से उल्टा फॉर्म भर दिया तो हमको मालूम नहीं, हम तो फॉर्म जो भरा उसके ऊपर जाएगा. The logic was that for gross receipts below 5 crores, you are supposed to file Form 10BB, correct? For gross receipts above 5 crores, you are supposed to file a Form 10B. Even if you have an FCRA, if you have FCRA foreign currency donations received even of 1 rupee, then you have to file Form 10B, not the 10BB, even if your gross receipts are below 5 crores.
If I have FCRA registration but not received any money during the year,
Yes.
in that case,
Sir, interest accrued.
supposingly that is also not there. Just give me
I will, and you have given me some answer which I have represented on to Vipul Agarwal, because in Form 10BB, they have a column where you have to mention your FCRA details, and we were arguing with him saying that, sir, 10BB does not apply to an FCRA case only, because if you, the moment FCRA applies, you go to 10B. And he agreed to that point he said that because we had given a 15-page amendment, where 10B and BB are not talking to ITR, he had said that why don't you give a big representation, because some of the cases are not, it's not tallying with the ITR. And one of the points was over there. And he said, you have a very valid point. So this, even if you don't have an amount single rupee, you still will have to go over there. And that's where last conversation that I had, he's already moved out of the income tax. He was on deputation, gone back to, he told me that we've made the changes. Obviously, the amendments have not come in because the forms have not been, the revised forms have not been notified. But my answer to your question will be, it will be 10B only. So, as I said, small trust are all trusts who have receipts below 5 crores for the last 2 years. If your gross receipts for last 2 years are below 5 crores, then you become a small trust, because you would have filed Form 10BB. And in those cases, once you go for renewal, your renewal is accepted, you will be granted registration for 10 years and not 5 years. What did I say? The category of small trust who goes for renewal, having gross receipts of 5 crores below 2 in the last 2 years, will be granted for 10 years. Under 12 AB, but ATG will be for 5 years only, because there is no similar provision in ATG. Now somebody may raise the question that, sir, once I got for 10 years, subsequently if I become 5 more than 5 crores, then what? Then that you will look at the next renewal, because in intervening period it cannot change. One more issue. And sorry for raising so many issues. This period of 10 years is not suo moto or self done. It is contingent on you going on renewal. Because 1st April, if you don't renew, your certificate lapses, right? So if you go for renewal and your application is accepted, then only they will grant it for you for 10 years, provided your receipts are below 5 crores in the last 2 years, correct? So that was the point that I wanted to bring in. So I've covered the 1, 2, 3 all of them. I've also mentioned what you have to select. These are correct subclause. I've covered the cases where CIT may condone, I mean, he's been granted powers to condone the delay. Some of the cases, some of the causes that have been accepted by ITAT have been illness of trustees, shifting of records, wrong advice, ignorance of law. I don't go by the third. This has been taken up from the exact ITAT orders in referred matters. But third and fourth, I will not. I mean, as I said, let's not, it is ultimately blaming somebody, and I don't subscribe to that view. But wrong advice given, ignorance of law, inadvertent delay on the part of clerical staff of CA who were genuine constraints owing to rural location or lack of access of digital thing. And I know this fifth thing very well, because I keep traveling all across. I get invited to speak across all of the branches in India, and I see huge challenge in this field. I mean, honestly, we are very, very blessed to be sitting in Mumbai, where there is huge awareness. I mean, if you see in interiors, there's huge challenge on this front. I mean, people are simply not aware of the provisions, and anything is being done, and then they lack up. This is what is happening. But these are some of the reasons of condonation. Yes, sir. I'm not saying wrong advice is the wrong. I'm saying that you are at some point of time blaming somebody, right?
But if the other party admits it, then is there a case for it? I believe there is a old case law that allows it. And it says, again, the genuinity of it is...
I will answer to your question. And I've come across certain cases where you have condonations to be done under 119(2)(b), correct? Where there was a delay in Form 9 or Form 10 or ITR or 10B or 10BB, right? Or all those condonation cases. And many a times, one for a fact, the trustee comes and tells me the chartered accountant this, or he was not available, or he was not traceable. And I give them a clear question. What were you doing? Is only the chartered accountant responsible? You as trustees have no responsibility. In fact, in one of the matter in Pune court, Pune ITAT, which I was arguing on where the actual case was, since you've raised this, I will give you the accountant was holding the user ID password, which is majority of the times. The notices for renewal had come from the department. They were not sent to the chartered accountant. Obviously, if it was not sent, he could not give the replies. And therefore, the ex parte assessment was, ex parte registration cancellation was done. Subsequently, the trustees came back saying that, sir, CA ने ध्यान नहीं दिया. हमारा accountant ने भी ध्यान नहीं दिया, but हमारे CA ने भी ध्यान नहीं दिया. In the same sentence, he said that. Obviously, the remedy was going to ITAT. There was no other remedy left, right? They gave an affidavit saying that our accountant had the user ID password and he's left, and on that basis we could not, because they wanted to cover the chartered accountant also in the affidavit. I said I will not argue that matter if that is the affidavit that you give. Given that background, they gave that affidavit. The member asked me that blunt question, and he said, are you trying to say that if your professional or your accountant was not, did not give you that notice or was not looking at the passwords, the notices, does that absolve the trustee or the director from its responsibility? Are they so irresponsible? And I had to tell them, sorry, yes, sir, but I understand the trustees about their responsibilities, and they have pleaded their ignorance, and therefore they will take due care. But The fact was that that was the point that they made. And that is the exact point that I'm trying to say. That wrong advice by anybody, does that absolve the the trustee or the director? The answer is no. The application is also being filed by the trustee only, not by the chartered accountant. So my answer will always remain that this have been extracted from the ITT orders only, but preferably avoidable. So yes. Okay, one last issue over there is that when do you file the condonation? Generally, you file the condonation along with the filing of the form only, because when you select the condonation, it will ask you subsequently to file the application also at that point of time also. So this is what I was saying, that when you do the condonation, it will take you there and you have to select condonation. In this case, we have taken 25-26 because it was the assessment year for where this particular case was applicable. In your case, whatever is the particular assessment year, you will have to select accordingly. And then it takes you forward, correct? Now, after you have applied, the CIT exemption is required to call for such documents or information or make as inquiries as you may think fit, correct? So what is the inquiries will be towards the genuineness of the trust, compliance requirements, and this becomes very, very important after New Noble Education Society judgment. If you see from between August 22 to October 22, Supreme Court came out with two very important landmark judgments, the New Noble Education Society as well as the Ahmedabad Urban Development Corporation, correct? And Supreme Court had overturned majority of its decisions, be it Surat Art Milk, Oxford Education Society and many others relating to charitable trust, where they have said that one of the things mentioned in New Noble Education Society is that if you have any local regulation, then you have to comply with it, correct? Applicable to your trust. And I would like to draw a classic example out of this. For religious and charitable institutions, specifically in the state of Rajasthan, there is something called as Rajasthan Devasthan Act. Majority people had not taken registration or had not renewed that registration. Subsequent to New Noble Education Society judgment coming in, department sent notices left, right and center saying that either give us copy of your registration copy under Rajasthan Devasthan Act or we deregister you. And then there was a scurry for everyone to get either registration or renewal done over there. So this is a classic example where a local regulation can apply, that will also become mandatory. So just giving an example what it could happen. Obviously, if he is satisfied with the objects of the trust and genuineness of the activity, to pass an order granting registration for 5 years or 10 years as the case may be. Only in cases of 10 years, there will be one more issue that both cases, you have to go for renewal after 6 months. So either you will have to go for renewal at the end of 4.5 years or renewal at the end of, again, 9.5 years, because that 6 months period will still apply, right? So that is the one small thing which I wanted to clarify. This I have already covered. I have already covered no automatic renewal. If he is not satisfied, he will pass an order for rejection, but before rejection, obviously, he has to give you a show cause. That is mandatory. He can't suo moto cancel your registration without giving you without an opportunity being granted. Because the courts have been taking a view that there has to be one opportunity granted, and that's where show cause has to be given. Obviously, on cancellation 115 TD, we've already discussed this aspect.
Sir, the 5 crores which you mentioned, that includes the corpus of.
It's saying gross receipts.
How do you interpret that?
It is, we'll take it offline because otherwise we'll spend a lot of time on it. I'm already running late, but I wanted to cover the basics first to the extent possible. Rule 17A, application to be made in Form 10AD, to be occupied with self-certified copy of instrument, self-certified copy of certificate of company registration, society registration certificate, charity commissioner's registration, FCRA latest 12AB registration certificate. You may ask me a question that am I supposed to compulsorily upload all this self-certified copies? My answer is no. You may do it along with the other annexures. If you don't, anyway, the world is not going to fall down, because the first notice that you receive after the second or the third one, these are question number 1. I have brought in a sample questionnaire also. These are question number 1, 2, 3, 4, generally what they've been asking.
Even if we upload.
Sir, unfortunately, if you see the tribunals, if you attend the hearings of tribunal, and some of the remarks being done by the members is absolutely, I mean, very unnerving. In one of the hearings, one trust was relating to a fencing institution. Obviously, some ex-person who had represented India in the fencing, it was his trust, and that was the activity that we were doing. But whereas if you look at the normal notice that comes, it says if you've done education activity, please provide this. If you're doing a medical institution, please provide this. And the same stereotype notice was sent to that. And the ITAT members took huge remarks on the DR, saying that what is your commissioner doing? Is he not looking into the activities also before sending a notice? He's just stereotype sending out a notice to everybody. Here's is an organization which has given you a document saying that he's a fencing institution. How is it a medical institution? You're asking, please provide your registration certificate, your this. And that's the way it is. But it is what it is. We have to live with it, and let's get. So my answer to is that you may apply or you may attach all these documents, self-certified copies, or given the portal that it is over the last few days, it may not allow you to upload all this together because the size will become very bulky. So you may avoid it also, but subsequently you will have to give it.
So self-certified, the managing trustee or any trustee will suffice.
Yes.
Digital signature.
Should be valid enough, not a problem, because unless the resolution is there authorizing him to do it. Self-certified copies of annual accounts for last 3 years and note on accounts, and note on activities. You don't have to upload a Form 9, Form 10, ITR, 10B, 10BB, all these things, because all of this is now there on the portal. So the CIT can actually see it by his login itself, and not you need only. And in case the business is carried on, then the tax audit reports also, which I've covered already. Computation, all you don't require because that is available with them. So when you make an application in Form 10AB, you will have to select original, and as I said, you will have to select AY 2728. Don't select AY 2627, because if you select AY 2627, as I said, he cannot change the assessment year. In fact, as I saw recently, in one of the cases, 2627 was selected by somebody. He has given a copy. He went to the CIT. The CIT said, I can't see the application only date, because he actually downloaded that application from his computer, and no date was being mentioned over there, the assessment year from which. So he said, I can't see any assessment year, but the acknowledgement that the party had, the assessee had that particular AY 2627, and they had to file a withdrawal, because if it is not withdrawn, the new application cannot be filed. The portal is not allowing you to file another application. So if you filed for AY 2627, it is not allowing you to file again on 2728. Point. You can make an application to the CIT exemption saying, there is no option online. You will have to do it physically. In Mumbai, you will have to visit CIT exemption, Mumbai Pedder Road, and Pune Swargate is what you will have to do.
Then at the mercy of CIT with GAT.
So let's not get into that. Point number 3 in the application is nature of activities, whether charitable, religious or religious. So please select based on whatever is based on your trust deed or MOA, and whether if you're primarily religious or primarily charitable, primarily religious come charitable. Somebody had raised this issue over here, and since that question was asked, let me give the answer it over here. Section 11.4 is very clear enough that specifically in case of religious institutions, if your religious expenditure is more than 5% of your total expenditure, they will not grant you ATG. And now department has been, earlier they were overlooking it, not realizing it, but since 11.4 has now been made, amendment has been done to 11.4, no. If you are partly charitable, partly religious, yes. But that is 11.4 is triggered for a religious purpose, and therefore you will not get ATG in cases if your religious expenditure is above 5%. And Bombay is very, very strict on it. Here is what does religious construe? The word religion means belief in and worship to superhuman controlling power, specifically the personal gods or a particular system of. See, these are some judgments, Supreme Court and ITAT judgments. Obviously, you will have to take each one of them with a pinch of salt, because at the end of the day, department is at times not accepting it, especially Dawoodi Bohra Jamaat. While it's a Supreme Court judgment, a landmark judgment, but department is again at times going against it. In the notices, they are saying that you prove how this is not falling within Dawoodi Bohra Jamaat. And Dawoodi Bohra Jamaat 364 ITR 31 is saying feeding of poor on religious occasions is a charity and not religious activity. So please, I'll say gone are the days where you could take an aggressive stand, because today litigation is coming at a very, very high cost and time, unfortunately. So don't be aggressive, don't take an aggressive stand, whereas you may take your individual calls. Shiva Shakti Shirdi Sai Anugram Mahapratham, Hyderabad. Objects of teaching in Vedas, Upanishads, Quran, Bible and other scriptures for the spreading of truth, non-violence, austerity is a charitable purpose. Again, similarly, a Bangalore judgment on to recite, pronounce Vedas is not religious. And as I said, ATG I've already covered. Only charitable and religious come charitable will be available.
Sir, if by mistake there is some mistake in filing the AB, then it will be revised before 30th September.
If you file a form 10AB, and as I said, you have only choices to get it withdrawn. And as somebody said, at the mercy of the CIT exemption. So if you've selected anything wrong apart from the assessment year also, then you have no choice but to withdraw it, no other choices. I hope I have answered it properly. Objects of the applicant, because it's asked question number 5, objects of the applicant, and it has to be as per trust deed MOA. The categories are whether religious, whether charitable, so on. It asks you a constitution, and it will be either a trust, society, companies or others. Society also registered under select society, right? What do you mean by others? If you look prior to 1950, and this case is coming up quite frequently, because the erstwhile Bombay Public Trust Act was from 1950. It became, now it is known as the Maharashtra Public Trust Act, but prior to that, before 1950, it used to be one Bombay. Before the division between the Maharashtra and Gujarat. So it was called the Bombay Public Trust Act, which came into 1950. Prior to 1950, you have many trusts formed under an, at times under a simple, what do you say? There is no particular trust deed or just a application, and that application was made to the, in 1950 to the Charity Commissioner, because they, when the Act came into 1950, all those trusts which were there prior to 1950 were asked to make an application, and they were granted registration in 1950 with a Charity Commissioner's registration certificate. So in those cases, you may not have a trust deed, but you will still fall under the others category. Or if you have a Charity Commissioner certificate in that case, then you can attach that as trust. No, sir. Under the societies are registered under the Societies Registration Act. The trusts are not registered. The trust is under the Maharashtra Public Trust Act in the state of Maharashtra. Yeah, I mean, right. So the issue over there was technically the Indian Trust Act was also there, but they have been granted in the 1950 when the BPT was coming in. They have granted somebody in societies also at that point of time. Yes. So I'm saying that was prevalent. Subsequent to that, you had Indian Trust Acts also. And in Maharashtra, till 1950, there was no Public Trust Act. So when they came in 1950, the societies were taken over. And in 1950, it was granted as a society under the Maharashtra Public Trust Act. Yes. Yes. So in the 7 states that I referred to, right, where there is Public Trust Act, the administration of the society is given to the Charity Commissioner and not to the society's body. But in the rest of the states, it goes to a central, respective state societies and central societies as the case may be. So in the 7 states that I referred, it is the Public Trust, because there is a Charity Commissioner, it is the trust as well as the society goes to the Charity Commissioner. Please go ahead, sir. My answer would be no, because the basic document, basic registration was cancelled. Okay, sorry. So you are saying prior to the ones which were prior to 1950. Sir, in those cases, see, you will have to again go for, there will be a challenge over there, is because you were granted a registration prior to 1950, based on which you got registration in 1950 or thereafter, right? Qua that, due to some non-compliances, there was a drive which happened about in 22 or 23, if I don't remember exactly, and the Charity Commissioner Suomoto cancelled a lot of registrations, right? You may take a stand that I got a registration in 1950, that is cancelled, but somebody will litigate it that your 1860 registration was converted into a 1950 Act. You have not converted it, but they have, based on that, they have given you a 1950. Yes. So there in that case, you will have to, at least for saving your point of time at this, you will have to select others.
Why you will select society?
His society registration has got cancelled.
Not cancelled.
1950 he has got cancelled.
But the 1860 is still there.
Sir, then it will say you give your Charity Commissioner's registration certificate.
Give that society registration.
Sir, Charity Commissioner, the society registration certificate is also issued by Charity Commissioner in Maharashtra.
Charity
So that registration certificate has got cancelled subsequent to that. 19, sir? Right. So in this case, I'm saying that instead of society, you select others.
Sir, what happens in case of society, here two registrations are granted.
Yes,
Society is one under trusted.
absolutely.
Without getting both, 12A will not be available.
Absolutely right.
So I think in this case, society registration
Will be still valid, whereas the trust has gone.
ATG, I don't think he will be able to get it.
I mean, I didn't want to take that step further, but
We have practical experience in that.
so that's the answer. It 12A you will still scale through. ATG for sure you will have a challenge. 12A should not be a challenge. Now the column 4B asks you from the date of incorporation, creation, registration. Your date of registration and date of creation and date of registration can be different because taking a case of trust, you may create it today, but charity commissioner takes you 3-4 months to give you a registration certificate because you have to give a 30-day public notice and blah 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 blah. So you ideally will have to put a date of creation and not the date on which your charity commissioner give you an order. Obviously, in a case of section 8 or a section 25, automatically your date of incorporation becomes the date on which you have to put in. Then in your form, point number 6, whether trust deed contains clause that is irrevocable. And that was the question that was asked by Pankaj ji over here, Sumani ji over here. And the answer. See, if you see the genesis of this problem, the genesis of the problem is the CAG report again. CAG again had done a performance review of charitable entities in 2013. And they had noted this point over that point of time. Subsequently, the act was amended and where irrevocability was made mandatory. I agree, in the good old days, there were no such clauses for irrevocability. Furthermore, societies cannot have a clause of society irrevocability. So the challenge is that in the old trust deeds, what do you do? And I know for once there is a mad rush right now to charity commissioner for filing schemes under 50A. There's no other option left. I mean, somebody came to me today morning itself. They have 10 trusts, each before 1950, not having this irrevocability clause. And I said, where is because as you rightly said, Sumani ji rightly said, if you select irrevocable, no, the form does not allow you to go further. It stops you over there itself. So the department's view is very clear that irrevocability is a mandatory clause. If you select yes, then it allows you to proceed further. Correct? Now, if you select yes and you don't have an irrevocability clause, you're sure to get a deregistration. So the only remedy in that case is, if you are a trust, you may no, sir, change report will not find. It is a change in your trust deed. So change report does not change. Section 21, 22, 23 does not apply to changes in trust deed. You have to go back to 50A only. So your short-term remedy is that you file an application under 50A, get your scheme application filed to charity commissioner, attach a copy of that application along with the change, the old section and the new section, the comparative that you make when you get a notice, and that is the only remedy right now you have.
But I think, sir, during last approval of ATG, the income tax people used to verify, which were physically done. That time the trust deed, either irrevocable clause is there or not, they verify.
So after 2013, 2013, they have been verifying it. It's because the act was itself amended. Now, actually, if you see in 2021, what happened was 2021, nobody looked at it. It was just filed online. CPDC was like a very good, generous institution, gave everybody registration. किसी ने कोई क्या लगाया नहीं लगाया. At times, honestly, I've seen blank forms attached as to LA old certificates, and still they have been granted registration. In that column where you attach the old certificate, blank forms were, blank white paper, blank PDF was made, attached, and it was given. I mean, in the closed door, I can tell you, I've seen say cases like that. But so be it. Now it will not, because now each one of you will have, I mean, all those cases will go back to the CIT exemption, jurisdictional CIT exemption, and therefore it will not stand. So the only practical solution that I can give Sumaniji is that you will have to, because you want to file the form before 30th of September, you file it as irrevocable, at least file, ensure that your application is dated prior to the date you submit the application, this application, so nobody challenges you on the date. I mean, is the practical solution that I can give. And subsequently get it perused at the charity commissioner level, and at the time of hearing you may always keep a stand saying that you have applied. The approval is pending before the learned charity commissioner.
Sir, previously in Mumbai, they used to take undertaking from the trust that the trust is irrevocable, and they used to grant 12 years.
The undertaking was that we will revoke that clause.
So now income tax has understood that if you, when you ask an affidavit, all affidavits are made on Mint Road. I don't think so. It won't stand, sir. Let's be, see, gone are the days of all creative accounting.
No, it's not creative accounting. Actually, as I said, in our society's old act, there is no revocation of.
So societies, I'm talking about more trust. Societies, it does not have this challenge.
Even in trust, where on stamp paper we create a trust. In that case also, previously when trusts were made, no irrevocable clause was there. But it doesn't mean some, you see, the trust people are common people, and they are supposed to be looked at that what government is supposed to do, that people are doing. If these obstructions are coming from the department, then it is not charitable act.
Sir, I'll tell you where they are taking.
Conflict is coming. I have seen now that is the conflict between the administrators and the government policies.
Sir, I will like to interrupt you over there, and let's understand the logic also at some point of time. One of the reasons why this irrevocability clause was brought in was that there were cases where technically, see, a trust is founded by a settler, right? And he settles an amount of to the trust. He is bound to be, under the Indian Trust Act, he can become a trustee also till his life if the trust deed allows him, correct? Along with somebody else, because there will be minimum 2 trustees who are required, correct? There have been many cases which are in that 2013 report that I had mentioned, of where CAG had pointed out, where the trustees who were settlers earlier, or trustee who was a settler earlier, has taken the entire money has flown back to the trustees, and including the original settled amounts, which technically cannot go back to them. If you look at the trust framework itself, once you settle a trust by whatever amount, that cannot come back to the settler, logically. But in the 2013 report of the CAG, when they did a performance audit of the charitable institutions, They came across such situations and it was pointed out, and that is why this amendment was brought in. I understand the practical difficulties. Let's keep the practical difficulties away. The act is amended. Now we don't have a choice but to look at it, and the practical scenario is what I told you. Otherwise, we will keep looking at it from various angles, but ultimately the decision is very clear from the department that this is a completely non-negotiable clause.
At the same time, government has a machinery to use putting assessments every year where the big trusts are there. And the small trustees and small trusts are penalized because of few people who are doing it. You use the machinery.
Sir, I think we are going on the wrong tangent because this is not relevant for us, because at the end of the day, honestly, that applies to all the cases. I mean, why charitable institution? All the cases, in the sense that at the end of the day, government has machinery for everything. Why do we need a tax auditor? So let's not get into that debate, because I think we will not reach anywhere. And I think this subclause irrevocable, obviously section 11 is very, very clear enough. Furthermore, the reason why I said in society it is not applicable, section 14 of the Societies Registration Act is very clear on dissolution, remaining property to be given to some other society, not to be paid or distributed amongst members. Section 8, subclause 9 of Companies Act saying on winding up dissolution, assets to be transferred to another company having similar objects. Let's move forward. I've already covered this, the origin, genesis of it. There is the judgment of Tara Educational and Charitable Trust of Mumbai, which says on lack of dissolution ground, it was refused. Radisson again is a contrary decision, where absence of a dissolution, not maintaining of fate of net trust cannot be ground to delay the registration under 12AB. This I'm giving you an example, I mean a case study which is in your favor to what you were saying, but please take it with a pinch of salt. I don't want you to face any music subsequently. These are some of the, I mean, I've reproduced this section 78 of the Indian Trust Act, where it says why revocation or what can be revoked, what will be treated as revocation. On instances where it can be taken as revocation of trust, where you don't have exactly the words as revocation, but instances like this, they can be also construed as revocation, where all the beneficiaries are competent to contract by their consent, where trust is declared in excess reserved for the author of the trust, or at the pleasure of the. There is again a judgment, CIT versus Ranbir Singh, 1965, which is Supreme Court judgment, which is in benefit to your extent. Again, a very, very good judgment, 1968, Jayantilal Amritlal, on this particular issue of irrevocability, and which is very, very required. So, you may refer to both these judgments. Again, a Supreme Court judgment. Let's look at subclause 7 and the classic issue at this point of time, the burning issue, whether darpan to be obtained or not. Let's have a poll.
Banks are insisting,
but I don't think we should take.
Let's hold on our sir. So how many feel we should darpan is to be taken? Sir, only one, 2, 3 for a registration. I mean, do you have to take darpan registration or not? We are asking that question. Only 3 people feel. How many think they don't need a registration? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Unless I have FCRA registration,
Let's. So only 7. The balance again, I think either I have to wake you up, or are you in a. I know in elections everybody prefers to now put a nota, because tea is needed now. Okay, I can check whether we can have a break or not. You can just check whether the break is there or not. But the point remains, if you see Niti Ayog, I mean the portal which is maintaining Darpan is by Niti Ayog, and Niti Ayog had made banks as the central authority to get this compliance work done, right? It has made IBA the main person in charge for this compliance, and it has made IBA to bring an amendment by saying that Darpan will become a mandatory document for registration. I mean, as a part of your KYC. The challenge is, if you see the the definition in the legislature which is given on the Darpan portal, the Gazette says so, that you should be registered under 12AB, under Income Tax, under Societies Act, under Trust Act, or any state legislation. The wording used over there is also a state legislation. And I recently came across a very, very known person. He is running a temple in his native place, not registered under 12AB, not registered under ATG, not registered under the BPT Act, not registered under the Societies Act, not registered anywhere as an EOP, right? A classic example which does not fulfill any of the criteria. He does not, in fact, in the Darpan portal, they are saying if you want to take any schemes of the central or the state government, or you want to raise money, then you are supposed to register. As he said, if you have FCRA, then you are supposed to have, all these are conditions, right, for Darpan opt. Whereas the example that I am giving you, nothing is falling within that condition. The banks are at this point of time freezing your accounts if you don't give your Darpan registration. They are saying that we have been told that this is part of the KYC document. If you give us this, then we will unfreeze your account. Otherwise, we will not freeze your, we will not unfreeze your account, correct? So in my example that I gave, we actually tried speaking to the branch manager. So the friend of mine, he said, sir, you've given me a copy of the Gazette. May you please explain it to the branch manager? He is not ready to listen. So I said, sir, here's a copy of the Gazette. He said, yes. I said, can you read the lines which says that definition? So first, the definition you have to fall within the definition to be accepted. He's saying, yes, sir, I accept that. Therefore, you have to fall within the definition to be accepted. But he said, sir, मैं क्या करूं? हमारी हेड ऑफिस चेन्नई में है. हाँ, चेन्नई वाले ने बोला है कि करने का, तो करने का. हमको तो आप चाहिए तो मैं गैजेट का कॉपी चेन्नई भेज देता हूं. चेन्नई वाला हाँ बोलेगा तो मैं कल आपको अनफ्रीज कर देगा. बट चेन्नई वाला कब बोलेगा वो तो भगवान मालिक है. तो आई सेड, बट व्हाट इज द रूल सेइंग? बोलता, सर मेरे लिए तो चेन्नई में माँ बाप है. So the trustee was sitting, my friend who was a trustee was sitting beside me. He looked at me and I said, see boss, you have two routes. Either to keep arguing with this jerk and spend your time, because I'm not going to come back again and waste my time. Or if you want, we can apply a Darpan registration, you will get a Darpan registration and you end of the matter. So I can give you a legal answer and a practical answer. And we both looked at each other and he said within the next 30 seconds, let's take the practical example. Let us give him the Darpan registration. Let's get it get our account unfreezed. The matter is over. Because otherwise there's no point fighting with a jerk which he was not able to understand. So that's my answer to that question. And over here, you will, in point number 7, you will have to mention whether the urban portal registration is meant then. And as I said, RBI has made it mandatory, so you will have to mention it over there. As I said, it doesn't, I mean, the portal says many things, but unfortunately, practical scenario on the ground is different.
The break was given at the start of the session only, so they recommended not to take
Perfect.
moment, yeah.
So, sorry sir, your application is rejected because, as I said, you made an application. Here, there is no CIT, but there is another authority who has rejected your application. So, I, one for, will just could plead it, not beyond that. If you have an FCRA made but which is not granted, then Darpan does not apply to you because it will apply, it will become applicable on registration only. However, if application is pending because the FCRA renewal is again getting delayed every 6 months, they've been renewing it, I mean postponing it, not giving you a renewal. So if your was there, then you will have to still apply if your was not rejected. If it is cancelled on the date of your registration, then obviously Darpan does not apply. Whether any application for registration was made in the past or has been rejected. And clause number 8A of the form. So all these numbers that I'm referring to are the clause numbers of form 10AB, and when you fill them, you will have these questions. So whether only income tax refusals or even other law refusals to be taken into correct, my view will be you mention them because if going after the new Noble Education judgment, it will become relevant. And if it has been rejected, then please mention it. Subsequently, obviously, it will be approved. That's why. So somebody had asked me this question, ITAT. One of the reasons why I didn't give the answers at that point of time because I had some of the answers already taken up in this PPT. Correct? Nine A mentions details of authors, founders, settlers, trustees, member, shareholding more than 5% or shareholding or office bearers on the date of have. So at times you could have a committee also or managing committee or manager appointed also, then you will have to mention that provided he is given authority. In fact, in some cases, you will also have beneficial ownership which will come subsequently if they are not individuals but they are natural persons. And beneficial ownership of them is above 5%, then you will have to mention them also. And if author, founder, trustees is deceased at the time, obviously they need not be given. Even if you've not made a compliance with charity commissioner, the change report is not filed technically. So here's an example. If you've trustee is appointed by existing trustees but not approved by charity commissioner, if your just your application is pending, you may include them. Who have submitted resignations there but pending acceptance by trustee, you may continue.
Sir, in case of trust, none of the trustees are having any holding or beneficial interest 5%. That criteria doesn't apply in fact.
Indeterminate. Right.
So what is to be mentioned there? 0 or?
See, the challenge in that case is that the form will not proceed, allow you to proceed. The moment you keep it blank, it will not allow to proceed further. So they will ask you to put at least a few of the trustees which are. I agree that the question says who's holding more than 5%. Technically in a trust which is indeterminate, there is nobody who's holding or a classic example by Section 8 companies by guarantee. Both the scenarios are same. But in both the cases, the problem is that you have to, practical scenarios, you put the current trustees or the current directors and you move forward. That is my practical answer. I mean, at times, I believe that you have to take a practical stand, move forward, because the time that you would spend in, as I said, the time you spend discussing with a jerk is not the time, valuable time. I mean, it's better to move forward with that. What difference does it make if they are the trustees and directors currently? It doesn't make a big difference either way. So it's better to move forward. Obviously, in form number, the column number 10, it's saying details of school, college, university, hospital, yoga institute, or any other being managed, controlled, administered, owned by the applicant. The nature of the activity, whether owned, whether name, email ID, and all those things. If it's run by somebody, so if you've given to somebody to run it, then you will have to mention the name of the people whom you have given to run. Because at times you could have just the management but not the administration, or vice versa as the case may be. Classic examples in case of quite a few hospitals or medical centers, educational centers, you give it to them for administration, and in those cases, if you're if you've owned it, then you will have to mention it over there. These are again examples. Then point number 4 is applicant having business as property held under trust within the meaning of section 11, full details to be provided. Now, I know a huge debate going on whether incidental activities, especially given the first 6 criterias of 215, subclause 1 to 6, and vis-a-vis GPU category, the 7th one. Because after New Noble Education Society in Ahmedabad Urban Development, which has mentioned some of the points on related to incidental activities, where they are saying if you are in the first category, 1 to 6, which is your education, medical relief, yoga, your preservation of monuments or artistic nature or others, and obviously, what is the 6th one? Education, medical relief, hospital, relief to poor. They have been saying that you need not, even if it's incidental activities, you need not maintain books, separate books of accounts, whereas for GPU category, it is very clear to be maintained separate books of accounts, right? So, if there is a business, you will have to put details over here in 11, point number 11. And then nature of business, address of business, whether separate books of accounts are maintained, whether the property which was given as a business is settled upon the trust. So this is where you will have to mention in point number 10, again, whether it is owned or not, person in charge, everything. I've already covered this Ahmedabad Urban Development. Why is it required? So 4A will apply to only cases where there is business, and therefore there is a difference between the property which is transferred or the business which is transferred, and it becomes of prime importance. I've covered the incidental activities, why incidental activities will become of prime importance given the first 6 category and the 7th category, GPU. So if you are in the first 6, you don't have a challenge, but if you are in the GPU, you have a huge challenge. Obviously, related point 12, whether it is for the incidental attainment for the objects. This is only in case of those first 6, because GPU, again, there's a subclause proviso to subclause 7 of 215, where it says that your receipts cannot exceed more than 20% of your total receipts, and your obligations has to be towards the objects of the trust. So 11.4a covers this incidental activities, and Ahmedabad Urban Development Authority judgment has been very, very clear on this point. I'm trying to run a bit fast given that background, that we still have some more slides to take covered, and remaining questions we will take over. Details of all accounts that you have in application. You mention all this, whether current savings, overdraft obviously need not mention, IFC code, obviously accounts which are in existence will you have to mention. FCRI accounts which is by SBI, New Delhi branch, Sansad Bhavan branch will be. I understand there is a limitation of 50 rows that you can make. Subsequent to 50, obviously you will have to make and given by an annexure. Now this is again a point of huge challenge at this point of time, where you mention details of all lands and building or both by the applicant, and you have trust where properties have been given, acquired way well past 100 years, some in case more than 50 years, they don't have land document. I mean, this purchase consideration, stamp duty, all those numbers and areas were not mentioned clearly at that point of time, or your documents are not clear. My answer to this practical will be you will have to fill in the details that you have, because at times you don't have the cost of stamp duty. You would have done repairs subsequently also to the property. Because yesterday somebody was arguing with me that in the 14 part it says as on the date of application. He was arguing with me that the original part I had property acquired in 1980, because in the form it asks you when have you acquired the property, right? And he was arguing with me, and then in 1980 I have acquired. Subsequent to in 2004 I have got a renewal repair done. So my cost of improvement has become more. So what do I take it as cost of acquisition? And he was saying, since it is arguing, taking it as cost of acquisition as per the date of agreement, should I take it as 1980 or 2004? And my answer to him was that, see, while you mention it you acquired the property in 1980, which is your date of acquisition, does not change. But is it cost of acquisition now? It is not. Because if you today look at it, cost of improvement was also part of your cost of acquisition. So therefore the value would have changed. So you will argue that my document which I will submit will not have that cost of improvement, but you will have to subsequently support it saying that this is your cost of improvement is what you will have. But this is what it is. And there are huge challenges in this area. If you have obviously gift, it will be nil. Self-construct, then the construction cost. If you have readily available stamp duty, registration free, brokerage, legal fees, you will have to include that. If you don't have, then God bless you. Purchase cost versus cost of acquisition, my view will be, ultimately it will be cost of acquisition. Comparison with stamp duty value, I'll say, let's leave the 50 CA and 43 CA for some valid time to be discussed, because it's a separate topic by itself. I mean, you put what you have on books as on today. Don't think on those 50 CA and 48 I mean, it's a separate ball game altogether. But I don't think they will go that deep. Where no stamp duty valuation prior to 1980, whatever was in their books and whatever is standing as on today is what you will take.
These figures can be taken as evidence in subsequent litigation if sometime happens.
These are actually challenges, but there is no answer to it. And I think there is no answer to it. We'll probably move in the next 6 months. We'll find, I mean, if the CIT ignores it, because honestly speaking, and I keep attending hearings all across India, and everywhere there is a mad rush. In fact, in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, there are only 2 CIT, Mumbai and Pune. And Pune has a huge chunk because everybody is, other than Bombay, technically beyond Daisar and technically beyond Mulund, everybody goes to Pune. So I don't think they will have the time to go through it today. I mean, they don't have the time today, because average registration renewal which is happening in Mumbai is somewhere around 800 to 1000. Whereas that number in Pune today is 2000. Delhi is approximately 1500, 1600 today. While I'm not talking of renewal mad rush which will start now. And Pune has one ITO. Mumbai has one ITO. Delhi has 3 ITOs. So Ahmedabad has one. Chandigarh has one. So given that background, I don't know whether they will be able to go into that detail, but we'll see over this challenge we'll see over the next 6 months. Size of the land and building, because it's saying you have to mention the land and building. If your campus or building is large, then if you are able to give it separately, please give it separately. If you're not, then you may leave it. And that is so you have to mention this. You have to mention the address, size of the building, purchase cost, stamp duty, whether acquired, date of acquisition, all those is what you have to mention in the form. Clause 15, in case of GPU, whether you are doing any other activity in the case of GPU and whether activity is in the advancement of GPU category, details of receipt, total receipts, aggregate receipts, because again, they want you to see 20% criteria whether fulfilled or not is getting covered over. Multiple activities, then you have to mention them. Gross receipts from the activity is to be shown and not net income, because I know of and that's where I meant you felt bad when I said creative accountants, but sir, I have seen certain balance sheets being audited where creative accounting is done, especially in case of GPU categories, where the income is adjusted or receipts are adjusted and net figures are shown, just to make sure that you comply with 20% criteria. 16, has return of income bill filed for the last assessment year for which due date has expired. So your AY 24-25 due date has expired. You have to mention yes if you have filed a AY due date, AY 24-25. However, for AY 25-26, your due date has not expired, right? Because it is, the ITR due date is 30th of 1st of October and the 10 BB will be for 30th of September. Assuming no extension, the institute has been, as the chairman said, institute is pushing forward, but let's see. Sir, yeah.
But sir, turnover will be counted for 24/5 and 23/4.
So if you see the form, it is asking you to put 3 years financials data, right? And which I'll come to it subsequently. Technically, my answer to it is, if your provisional accounts are ready, if you have got your accounts audited for March 25, and if you filed your ITR also, then you may put in March 25 figures. If you have not filed or done, if you've done audit but not filed ITR, then you still fill the March 25, March 24, March 23. If you have not audited March 25, finished your audit of March 25, but you have provisional accounts ready, which are more or less be the final one. If you are 90-95% confident of your provisional numbers, then you may put 23, 24 and the provisional March 25. If you are not confident of the provisional numbers of March 25, you may file March 23 and March 24 itself and leave the 25 blank. The application will still go. And in the notice that they said, they ask you the accounts for the last 3 years, which obviously when the notice comes in post 30th of September, you would have had the accounts ready. I had also checked with the respective CIT, couple of CITs, and they said that, sir, yes, you may take a stand like this. We don't have a problem in that, because this is the practical challenge that you will face, because the accounts will not be ready by the time the due date is there to apply for this form. So that is the answer to the question.
If by mistake you put no here, is there an option to correct it? 16.
See, I will say you can rely on an amendment done in the last budget. In the last budget, what they did was, they have said, where there is a clerical error or in the filing of a form, that will not be construed as a specific violation for deregistration, right? And then you will have to plead that, saying that this was a clerical error, because then it should, if it is construed as a specific violation, then they have a powers to deregister. So that amendment was brought in last year in July budget. I don't think, I mean, that is too. If you so exactly, so if you start doing that, you will have to withdraw the form on all the counts. 17 to 25, you have to mention the details of liabilities, assets on the date of application. You have to mention corpus, reserve, surplus, other than corpus, long-term liabilities, other liabilities, total liabilities, right? And obviously the assets which you.
So today's accounts has to be finalized somewhere.
Or the last available, that, because practically, see, if, again, when you receive the notice, they say, tell you to also give provisionals, right? Up to the date of hearing or date of the notice. So, see, let's be practical, understand that it's not possible for us to prepare the accounts. March 25 accounts है नहीं, आप September 25 की बात कर रहे हो, March 25 में लोग extension की बात कर रहे हैं, वो और उस पे मर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे September 25 की accounts की कोई possibility नहीं है. Because believe me or not, I mean, it's irony, half of the trust are running with part-time accountants. The trustees generally don't have full-time accountants. वो 2-3 जगह पे अकाउंट्स लिखने जाता है, उसको मार्च 25 का अकाउंट्स में प्रॉब्लम है. I am telling you on the ground, whatever is happening on the ground, let's be practical. Everything looks good on the form, but is it so? The answer is no. Nobody is going to, anyway you are going to get a hearing notice, so might as well do it at that point of time. Let's look at it from a practical perspective. नहीं, notice तो by default सर आना है. Notice by default आना है, because the CIT exemption, the jurisdictional CIT exemption does, I will put it reverse way, he does not have the power to accept. I mean, how will he accept? Because you are not giving a note on activities in the form, which is, आप सर आप अटैच करने जाओगे, फॉर्म अपलोड नहीं होगा, बिकॉज सर आपको नोट ऑन एक्टिविटीज के साथ में फोटोज वीडियोज सब देना है. आपको जितनी साइज बल्कि कर दोगे, आपकी एप्लीकेशन नहीं, एक पेज लिख दोगे तो वो बाद में आपको बोलेगा कि आपने खाली नोट ऑन एक्टिविटी. It is not sufficient. Where is the evidence? Without notice. Let's be very, very clear. It is not going to happen. I will agree to somebody who said that. Absolutely right. Like 21, it is not going to be auto renewal. Let's be clear on this point. Income and expenditure account balance should be reflected. Negative balance it is not taking. That is what I'm being told in the form. Negative balances are not being taken. So maybe you'll have to adjust somewhere, because that is what I'm being told. Obviously, my office chartered accountants take due care in filing of the form. I am more on the form, not on the form side, but obviously the FD fixed assets is to be shown, and WDV if you are claiming depreciation. And if you have claimed depreciation up to 21 and then not claimed, then only that value, because prior to 21 you were allowed to claim depreciation. Post 21 either you can claim it as an application or depreciation, not both. Prior to 21 people have done everything that they could think of, claiming depreciation, claiming application simultaneously together. Sorry, your answer. On the date, if filed in preferably 31st August or whatever numbers you have. 26, I have already covered income received in 3 years. So your government grants, your central state government grants, your companies under CSR or other governments, whether corpus to be included, yes. Whether general corpus to be included in other income, yes. Sorry. So, see, this is the way you will have, it is asking you all the questions. As I said, 17, it will ask you corpus, 18 reserves, long-term liabilities, other liabilities, total liabilities, land and building, other fixed assets. You will have to break the movable and immovable, because in other fixed assets, you will get covered under movable, because if one of the reasons of asking this is that 11.5 allows you to make investment in immovable properties, but it doesn't allow you to make investment in movable properties. Then investments deposit made into the forms of 11.5. Obviously investments are matured in which are not part of, I mean, out of 17. So out of corpus, if you've made investments, then you have to segregate them, because again, that is to be matched with your ITR presentation also. Other assets, and obviously corpus, I mean, 17 to 25, everything is getting covered. This I have already covered. One view has that, I mean, while it's asking for 3 years, the one view is that should you have all the records for 5 years? If you can prepare, you may, because you never know, they may ask for it. So my suggestion is, if your trust or a client is able to do it, preferable, but minimum 3 years is what is required. And your note on activity will have to contain the location, target beneficiaries, how you have done work, recurring, quantitative of details, and obviously put in as many proofs as you can, activities, photographs, all the evidences that you can, because then at the end of, one important thing which is being done by most CITs is asking you to trace the application back to the bank statements. They're asking the bank statements for the last 3 years, then asking you to trace those expenditures to the bank statements to show, because in some cases the reimbursement is done by the trustee. Again, while as per section 13, technically it cannot be done. So they are asking you to trace it back to the bank statement, and that's where the challenge starts. So I agree, while you can give a note on activities along with the application, the challenge starts over here. And that's where it is better if you don't do it and you maintain it separately after, because anyway, during one of the very clear items which I'll take you in the hearing notice, it says that you give all the evidences possible in the application. All. Huh. Exactly. All. So what is the consequence of non-filing? We already discussed this, right?
So, what if somebody files 1 month later, say 31st October?
Condonation. Because subclause 2 gets triggered. CIT has the power. Will he be able to do it? Will he not? That's a question I don't want to answer. You will have to prove that there was genuine cause, because he is supposed to condone your application only on a genuine cause. So, technically it is possible. System will accept. System will accept.
That has to be given in subclause 3.
Subclause 2 only.
Subclause 2.
You will file a normal, so where you selected original, you will have to go for condonation. Simple. There is no other way. Because 154 cannot be done, commissioner appeals cannot be done. Yes, sir. So you are referring to case where somebody had subclause 1, he forgot to apply in subclause 1. Am I correct? So my answer to your query is, you have time today. Subclause 1 utility is available. You file it under subclause 1. Now, subclause 1 is only allowing you to file an application. The form 10, because the challenge is, there is a system challenge in that. When you filed in 2021, you filed a form 10A, right? Today you have to file form 10AB, correct? So if you see, go back to that condonation application of 21, and that too only in 12AB, not in 80G. 12AB, it will allow you to file a form 10A. It just says you file, select condonation, select assessment year, select the code, which is 12A subclause 1, and you press the button, submit, that's it. Then you don't fill in the rest of the form. I am being told that if the CIT accepts it, I mean, along with the condonation application, the reasons what stopped you from making an application in 21, whatever was your reason. So it will accept that application, and no other further documents are to be attached. I mean, the basic documents are to be attached. This is what you will have to do. Once that order comes in, then only you will have to apply under subclause 2.
First condonation accepts, then
Because if the condonation is accepted, they will give you till AY 26-27. I mean, that's what we have done in the live case that I spoke about, where a school was gutted in fire and they could not apply till 24. We've done the same thing in that case. 80G condonation facility is not available for subclause 1. So your 80G is gone.
सब फॉर्म जो फाइल किया है सब डिफेक्टिव हुई।
So let's not get into that. I mean, let's look at it practically, and let's move forward. What will happen if we don't renew? Obviously, if you have an FCRA and CSR, then you won't require, your validation doesn't happen. And I one for know that today for big corporations, I mean big trust where you are receiving substantial CSR donations, the corporates are making it mandatory that you give us your application. If you have filed your renewal application, please give us a copy of that also, because Rule 17AA puts onerous responsibility on everybody, and that's why they are saying that, boss, if you've renewed it, please give us a copy. Whether your application will be accepted or rejected, you will provide us the copy at that point of time, but we want to be safe today. Provided you want the money for the next 6 months, you please give us money, your application today itself. Because if non-renewal will obviously disqualify you as NGO, and the money that you, the Section 8 company or the trust or the society, technically, if you receive a CSR fund from a corporate, if you do not spend it before 31st of March, or if you are disqualified, technically you're supposed to give back, because you cannot give a utilization certificate to the company and the donor, and the company cannot claim it under cannot offset it against his liability under 135(5). So that's the challenge over there. Obviously, foreign donors will also require a valid domestic tax registrations requirement. Renewal ensures that obviously your constitution, objectives and operations continue to align with charitable purpose, and you are not tagged as a commercial entity by tax. In fact, in some of the, especially in FCRA cases, I am being told that where there is deregistration happening, they are being tagged as willful defaulters, and then there is other consequences, which, because if you see under the FCRA Act, right, each of the DMs, the district magistrates, if you have created an asset out of a foreign fund, foreign money that you receive, and if your renewal is not done, or technically the asset belongs to Government of India. and the respective district magistrate, DM, is empowered, has been empowered under the Act to collect that asset, to confiscate. They are not doing it, is a separate issue, but they have been empowered to do it. As I said, as you rightly asked me this question, whether condonation can be done, it can be done, but I don't think you want to reach that stage, and therefore 30th September becomes the due date. I know the chairman sir has said that institute has been pushing for this extension of this deadline. Whether it will come, my answer again, closing this mic, is a no. I mean, I was as I said, I took a session in Noida branch day before. Yes, I was invited to speak in Noida branch, and I met the PCIT in Delhi day before yesterday. And obviously nobody gives a correct answer, but you understand by the tone what is going to happen, and the tone did not suggest that. So obviously you have got two options. Your client has got two options. One, to keep on facing the dangers, right? Yes or no? And obviously the second one is to hire a consultant. Like, the important issue is, while we have been sitting for nearly 3 hours nearly, right? And you've given me a beautiful gift. I mean, apart from being, I being called to this alma mater again, each one of you sitting has given me a beautiful gift. And can anybody specify me what gift they have given?
Exchange of information.
Maybe yes, some more thing. That anyway, I have the ability. My wife tells, as I said in the starting, कि तू बहुत ज़्यादा बोलता है इसके लिए. That तो it is a validation of what she's saying. Sir, अभी I can't speak, sir. Can anybody tell me what beautiful gift you've given? By God's grace, no. I mean, by God's grace, that's not the case.
We have known each other.
Yes. Some more very, very beautiful gift. I mean, I know Sumaniji for now more than 13 years. No, more than 10 years. We fought election together, right? Way back in 2015. Anybody? It's a very, very important gift that you've given me. Can anybody say? Please go ahead, ma'am. Yes, but I'm looking for a beautiful answer, and that is the right answer. Whatever you've said is absolutely right. I'm not arguing with it. But there's something more that you've given me. Again, yes. But I'm looking for a specific answer. Yes. So the best gift that you've given is your time. Correct? And in Mumbai, time is of prime because whenever I go out of Bombay, I keep telling people that the first local, which is at 4 o'clock in the morning, or the last local, which is at 1 p.m. in the night, 1 a.m. in the morning, both you will never get a place to sit. So I kept telling people outside that in Bombay, people keep on running. भागता रहता है, कहाँ भाग रहा है उसको पता नहीं है, but भागते रहता है. और उसके पास टाइम नहीं है. किसी को भी पूछोगे ना, टाइम नहीं है मेरे पास. Right? Am I correct? So the beautiful gift that you have given me is time.
You have also eaten.
No, but that's a gift, right? So you want, if you have given me a gift, do you want a return gift?
Yes.
How many of you want a gift? Return gift? ओनली 3-4 मिनट सर। देखो बाकी लोगों को नहीं चाहिए, कोई हाथ नहीं खड़ा करता तो जरूरत ही नहीं है ना। देखो सुमानी जी आपने कहा गिफ्ट चाहिए, देखो अभी भी लोग आधे आधे खड़े कर रहे हैं, यस और नहीं चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए। सर मांगने रिसेंटली, आई विल गिव यू a classic example. Somebody told me the beautiful a government servant told me कि सर आपको मालूम है चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स की एक फितरत है। मैंने बोला क्या? बोलता आप किसी सीए को फ्री में भी कुछ दे दो ना तो भी वो सोचेगा ये सच्ची में फ्री में दे रहा है। एंड दैट केम फ्रॉम अ गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट। सो जस्ट एनालाइज व्हाट परसेप्शन वी आर कैरिंग। So now, how many of you want a return gift? Sir, I can't offer all. Let's understand. So what I can offer you is a one-to-one session with where we in our office we call this at an NGO compliance officer. And what do we do on? We can offer you a 30-minute call where my EA will schedule that call, and we can help you give practical solutions. To you rectify your blunders, plan your utilization, ensure that you adhere to your timelines, avoid exit tax, keep a constant watch on what qualifies as an application, and take corrective action, and in whether it qualifies for incidental activities or not, whether condonation is possible or not. Obviously in that 30 minutes, since me and my chartered accountants are there, obviously there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it, and there's a cost attached to it. So generally we charge 25,000. सोमानी जी क्या करना चाहिए? I thought आप डिस्काउंट की बात करोगे, आपने तो हाथ दिया तो पूरी उंगली दी तो पूरे हाथ ही खींच लिया। तो बोल दिया तो फ्री। But this will be see, honestly you have to agree. No. There is a scarcity of time given 30th of September, and I don't have time honestly. I will while I want to help each one of you sitting over here, there's a very scarce time that I have, and I will be only, so there's a QR code which is coming in. You can pull out your phones, select the QR code. If you select the QR code, there'll be a Calendly link which will be coming in. You have to select on that Calendly link. It will take you to a particular time and slot. My office was behind me. I managed to give 10 slots only. So you will have to select that 10 slot, the particular time, and only then it will allow you. My sincere request, I would love to help each one of you, but this offer is only for today, only for people sitting over here, not for people outside. I mean, that's where my partners deal in GST. I don't deal in GST. But what I've been told in GST is that place and supply of thing is very important, right? So your gift was what? Your place and supply was over here, correct? Anybody in GST who can correct me if I'm wrong? So my return gift also, place and supply will be over here only. It is not effective even outside, correct? So anybody who's facing a challenge may look at it, but QR code is over here. This will be free for only people who select it right now. There are very limited slots. I can't, while I have tried, would love to help each one of you, but I'm sorry. So you may scan this QR code. You can use a Google Lens also. It will allow you to take onto that Calendly link, and that is where you can do it.
So you can give the appointment post October.
My mobile number and my email ID is over here. I am generally allowed to, rather I pick up my phones when I'm a boss. I am not allowed to pick up the phone when I'm an article. And we all married men sitting over here know when they are articles. So if in case I don't pick up the phone, you may assume that I'm an article, and when I'm the boss back, I'll definitely try and call you back. So thank you for a lovely. I'm back. So any more questions? I'm there to answer to your best of my ability. Please go ahead. I will send the PDF version of the PPT. Yes. Separately. It has to be filed separately.
How much one should charge for this?
Sir, it will purely depend on the time, an estimation of time and efforts only. May I request the participants to please sit down, because I know WRC has to do some. My written gift has already been given by ICI by way of a memento, but I know the coordinators was here before I came in, so we need to give due gift to him also by sitting over here. So thank you, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.